hard extra tonight. So, welcome to Still Talking Uncut. Mr. Sean Rixby didn't show up again, just like he left me stranded going to Arkansas the weekend for the music festival. He's such a sack of shit. He's off the show anymore. He's been demoted to American Whiskey. Get out of here, Sean. That's where you belong. The new second in command co-host, my man Uncle Joey, Mr. Steven Spielberg, production king. Matt Lemaster's down in the bottom right-hand corner, as always, the grand elder. Impart some wisdom on us on what not to do in a marriage. You know, he knows all about that shit. So, be a special guest tonight, man. My man, Mr. Master Distiller, Brandon Buffington, won the Ancient Grains episode. Got to compete against my boy Judd. Yeah. Love that episode, man. Good fellers.
That's a good one.
You know, we're all here for the same reason, to have a good time. So, it's an honor to have you. Thanks, Uncle Joey, for reaching out to Brandon and getting him on. I know we wanted to get you on for a while. It gets hard sometimes. You know, we fill up, and then, you know, we got a co-host who don't show up half the time. And that's just the way it goes, you know.
We deal with it, man. We make things work.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's back to having to ask. We'll figure that out later. But anyways, fuck him. All right. Welcome to the show, man. What you tipping up in that jar right there?
Hey, absolutely. You know, I'm drinking a little bit of my favorite bourbon right now, so I got a little Eagle Rare in there right now. And as soon as I finish this one off, I'm going to hit that E.H. Taylor, maybe a little Weller. You know, I'm a big bourbon fan. I like that brown liquor.
Yeah, a little small batch on that E.H. Taylor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, I got a local brew place up here where we go and get barley and stuff. And man, you go in there and you start shooting shit with a guy behind him. Before you know it, you're in the back shooting E.H. Taylor, smoking bowls and passing jars, and you're walking out of there half lit, wondering how that dude's going to finish the day and how you're going to get home. You still got to go to work.
Exactly.
Always
like going to your house.
That's right. I usually get you hammered. You go there and you wind up hammered. So, but you got some of that knock 'em stiff up there, Uncle Joey. It's at the Pats.
That's the Copperas Mountain.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I tell you, man, that one's got a lot more corn flavor to it.
Yeah, it does.
This other one. That's the red, white, and blue, ain't it? Ain't that the red, white, and blue?
I don't know if the Copperas is the red, white, and blue or if the knock 'em stiff. I'm not sure.
You need to dive down on that. But I do know that Copperas is it's got a real good corn flavor to it.
Yeah, Pabst Hilltop up here in Bainbridge, Ohio, man. Chris Lewis is an awesome dude. They make some good corn liquor. Actually, everything Chris makes is good.
Yep.
Good evening.
What's happening, Joe?
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Well, Matt, anything special?
I'm being good.
I'm being good. You too busy putting in lights in the new garage.
Yeah,
been on that honey-do list hardcore, but
have been.
What you get for staying out at Easy's too late.
That's right. You stay Easy's too late one time, you're gonna pay for it for a month.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh man! All right, well, lead us along, Uncle Joey. Get us started.
So, what's happening tonight, Brandon? Man, so if you would kind of lead us back, man. Tell us what puts you on the path to even wanting to even get on the Master Distiller show, or however you want to start it, man. Let us know what's happening.
Hey, how'd you get started? How'd you fall in love with it?
How'd I fall in love with the liquor? Nah, so, you know, my backstory, you know, I don't really have a family history of it or any of that kind of stuff. You know, it's all pretty much just me. I really, from going back to whenever I was a little kid, you know, we used to go to the campsite, you know, the deer hunting at the camp, you know, and I'd see them passing that jar around. And for me, I got my education at the campsite, you know, around the campfire. And so being able to see that jar passed around never really made a whole lot of connection of what it was, what it was about it. And so for me, you know, once I got a little bit older, I kind of started making them little connections. And when I moved up to Tennessee, I grew up in Mississippi, and I moved up to Tennessee, then it was kind of the same experience. You know, I'd sit around the campfire with some fellas, somebody would bring a jar out, and then next thing you know, you got 15 guys sitting around the campfire shooting the shit, you know, and it's like what in the world? And so it just, for me, that was what it was all about, because I started down my path, more than 20 years ago, probably almost 25 years ago, and just enjoyed that camaraderie, just like we're doing right here, being able to sit around and talk about stuff, I mean, you're my neighbors, but you don't live next to me, because we all share something in common and we all have a good time, talking about the same kind of stuff. And so that's what really got me into it, and for me, I just started out with a little homemade, from scrap parts, really just kind of built a little stainless steel rig and just kind of started messing around and made some god awful whiskey for, I wouldn't even call it whiskey. It was rot gut for the longest time, and
but you made, that's all that matters. At first.
I did.
It doesn't matter. You made.
Were you trying to make, did you get turned on to a whiskey early? Were you trying to turn that into a whiskey, or were you just trying to drink some clear corn liquor? You know what I mean?
No.
What was the...
Yeah, I mean, at that point in time, I was just more interested in the corn liquor, just trying to make alcohol, and I mean, I was doing this. I was fermenting in 5-gallon buckets, and using bread yeast I'd find at Kroger, just trying to, it didn't,
right.
And just figuring out the basics of it. Like, okay, how do I do this, and okay, I'm cooking this. I'm making cornbread, but I'm throwing sugar in it and adding some water. What am I doing here? Because I didn't really, at that point in time, 20, 25 years ago, you couldn't necessarily go on YouTube and watch a whole bunch of videos about people making terrible liquor and people making good liquor and getting all confused about it. I just did it, and figured it out on my own. And so, as I kind of started getting a little bit more confident in it, I'd start sharing it with some of my friends and they would either tell me, no, this is terrible, or this is good, or this is whatever. Because even then I didn't even have like a whole lot of friends that did it. So I couldn't even sample other people's. I was like, okay, is this what it's even supposed to taste like? I didn't have any idea. And so I just knew what I liked. And that's kind of what I've done for my entire distilling career, is done what I like, and done it the way I want to do it. Even all the way up to being on Master Distiller Show, I mean, Judd will tell you I broke the rules, at the end. I was supposed to do something else to it, but I knew what I'd done was what I wanted, and that's what I ended up doing. I turned the same jar in, knowing that I technically was breaking the rules of the show, but did it anyway, because that's what I knew that I wanted. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And if I went home, then I went home because I did what I wanted to do. But if I didn't, then that's even better, And so, just through that whole process, I mean, because it took well over 2 years from the time that I sent that. Because back then when I did it, you had to send an email in, and then you waited around. And if somebody emailed you back, then you kind of took the next step, and I'd reached out to Sean. I was, because I was like, hey, I'm thinking about going on the show, give me some pointers. And he gave me some good advice, believe it or not, he gave me some good advice, which kind of shocked me. But it worked.
Hey, listen, that's one thing that I will say. These guys, they're not crib keepers, man. They're not holding on to these secrets, dude. These guys want to give you that knowledge. So it is surprising. Like you said, you're surprised. But now that you've learned what the Moonshine family is like, I bet now you're like, okay, I get it now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I stayed on him and did the things that he had talked to me about. And pretty soon I get a call back, and it was funny because I get an email back, and there, we corresponded back and forth. And from the time I sent that first email to the time I was actually filmed, I mean, that was almost 2 years. And then I filmed in February, and it didn't, like, the show didn't air until November. And so, there was almost 2.5 years of time between when I sent that first email to the show aired, and here, it was 3 years ago yesterday that my show aired, and I still don't have my jar on the shelf, and so it's coming along, but there's been a whole lot of roadblocks and government shutdowns and equipment failures and COVID and everything else that got in the way of that happening. Now, should it have been out earlier? Yeah, it should have. But at the same time, I sympathize, or at least empathize, with the situation, and I'm just glad now that they're finally starting to, Sugarlands is finally starting to kind of come through on their deal and put some jars on the shelf. So
it does seem like they've got a handful of jars coming out, and I'm sure they've got some more coming out. So
yeah,
it's good. It is good to see that they're, giving what these people deserve, what they've won for the show. They're giving them their run, and congratulations to you again, by the way, man.
So I appreciate it.
So how did it even get to be that you were on the show? Did you reach out to them? I mean, I've heard some people say they've been reached out to from the show. So you reached out to them?
Yeah, I reached out to them, and like I said, it was a process of me emailing them, and then they emailing me, and we went through this email exchange for about 6 months, and then it finally got to the point where they were like, hey, we want to see some footage of you doing something on camera. You don't have to show you running, but we want to record something. And I mean, I'm not a technology guy, so I had this piece of junk, little digital camera, put it up on a tripod, and it was grainy, and it was, just terrible quality. But I sent them, I think I mashed in or something and sent them that video, just me, just kind of just talking through and just being me, because at no point in any of this was I trying to put on an act and trying to be somebody I wasn't supposed to be, like a lot of them would do, and even some of the ones from the show, you talk to, and they're nothing like what they are in real life. Well, I mean, I was just me. I was just doing my own thing, trying to be my authentic self. And I won't necessarily say it helped me any, but living right here where they film, I think probably maybe helped just a little bit, because I mean, we filmed 15 minutes from my house, and so it was just right down the road for me, jump in a car and run down there. They didn't have to fly me in or any of that kind of stuff. And so, hey, Mark, but so it was, it was me and Judd and another guy named Marquez Ashworth. He's from Iowa, and I think that the way I understand it, I'm not sure about Judd if he reached out to them. Maybe Big Easy, maybe but I think that both of us reached out to them, but Marquez, they actually reached out to him and asked him to come on the show. And so, I mean, it was a great experience. It was a little bit nerve-wracking doing it during COVID, because there was at one point in while we were filming that we had a mass breakout of COVID. Because whenever we were filming, it was 2 episodes of Master Distiller, the Tournament of Champions, and 2 or 3 episodes of Moonshiners, filming all at the same place, all at the same time. And so we had a mass breakout of COVID of about 250 people that caught COVID all at once, and they sent us home. And so we had to come back a second time to pick up where we left off, and they even had to do some creative editing, because what we ended up doing on the show wasn't the original plan. And so that was definitely interesting, because there were definitely some things that I had planned to do different, even like with the mash, we had ran our strip and run, and I was actually had saved some of my mash because I was planning on using it in my flavor run. Well, by the time we got back, they had tossed our mash. And so I couldn't use it in my flavor run. And in fact, I knew that they tossed it. And so I actually made another mash at home and brought with me, and they were like, nope, you can't use it, so we had to do a little improvising there for the flavor run and the post flavoring because we didn't really know necessarily exactly what they wanted to do and how they was going to put it together. And so it was a good experience, and I had a really good time doing it. Those ancient grains, man, I'm a big wheat fan. I love wheat. Every recipe that I own has some form of wheat in it. And so being able to use wheat, I mean, it's not, you've got as many different varieties and flavors in wheat as you do in corn. And so being able to mix and match those to get a specific blend, and especially using that kamut, because that's a really super old version of wheat, and being able to use that in a way that was a little bit different was pretty cool.
So going into the show, did you know that you were going to be doing the ancient grains, or did you not have any idea beforehand what you were going to be doing?
Yeah. That's a good question. I whenever they called me, so I was at work. It's funny because I was at work and I get a call on my cell phone from a New York number. Well, I don't answer calls from New York numbers, so I ignored it. And then they called back and I picked up the phone and said, "What do you want?" And he's like, This is whoever from Master Distiller. I said, "Okay," and I hung up on him. and then he called me back, like immediately called me back, like, "No, this really is. This is from Master Distiller." I was like, "Man, okay, what?" Because this was, you got to keep in mind, this was like a year and a half after I had originally, this was 6 months after I sent the videos in, so I'd emailed like a year ago, sent the videos in like 6 months later, and then never heard anything until I got the call from him like almost a year and a half later.
Oh, they string you along, that's for sure. They string you along, you along.
And so it was one of those where it was like, "Hey, we've got we want you on the show. We really, think you'd do good on here." And they gave me like 3 or 4 different options. They said, What would you like to do?" And they gave me 3 or 4 different options, and I knew right off the bat that the ancient grains was the one I wanted to do, because I'm a grains guy. I don't make a lot of brandies. I have before. I'm not a real big brandy drinker or maker. I'm much more into grains and stuff like that, and so I knew right off the bat. And I'd actually used Kamut before, just a couple of times way back, so I knew what kind of flavor it was going to have, and so I knew whenever they give me the list, hey, you can pick one of these 4 episodes to be on, and I actually whenever I picked it, and then they called me back and said, "No, we can't have you on that one. We're going to have you on a different one." And so I was a little bit bummed about that, but then they called me back. It's like, "All right, no, we moved things around. We're going to put you on ancient grains." I was like, "Perfect, let's go."
Well, that's actually, a benefit, rolling in with something that you've dealt with and actually are familiar with. You're some of these guys rolling in and they have no clue what they're running, and boom, here you go. They're doing something they've never run, messed with, mashed in, or anything before. So they learn as they go. And, not that that's a bad thing, but man, you probably feel a lot more comfortable doing what you're doing if you're familiar with what you're working with. So
yeah, and I think
a bonus.
And I think that was the case with the guy from Iowa that was with me and Judd Marquez, because whenever he showed up, he didn't know what episode he was going to do or what he was going to be doing. He just knew he needed to be there to be on the show. And so it definitely put him at a disadvantage, because whenever he showed up, like he didn't have his ingredients. He didn't have anything, so he had to actually go out and find, and me being from the area, I kind of knew some of the stores and some of the grain that he could go to try to find some ingredients. And so we kind of helped him out between me being here and of course with Digger and all of them being right here. We kind of directed him where to go and to get him some grains. But so I think it definitely put him at a little bit of a disadvantage, not knowing anything about what he was coming into. But I knew that wheat, and I didn't necessarily have my recipe completely 100% nailed down, but I had it pretty close.
But at the same time, it's like, hey man, you put me in anywhere and hand me anything, you should be able to make some liquor out of it. So
yep.
Disadvantage, but at the same time, it don't matter what it is, I'm gonna make something magic out of it. Throw me in that situation. Let's get it.
Well, if you're worthy of if you're worthy of winning a show called Master Distiller, I feel like that's you should have that ability to be able to go on the fly, so to speak. Yeah.
Some people are built for those tough situations. Real tough situations, and some aren't. But hey, he did great. He held his own and did fantastic on the show. You know what I'm saying? So he was definitely
his liquor wasn't bad. I mean, he definitely made some pretty good liquor there. And Judd's was fantastic. That was he made some really good. That buckwheat and plum that he made was really good. So,
hell yeah,
I'll ferment anything.
Oh yeah,
we'll ferment anything. How you doing, Wayne?
We learned in some of you and Phil Billy's old videos.
I'll ferment anything, man. I don't care. Evening, when I saw Wayne in Arkansas. He was excited to meet Sean in Arkansas, but all right, never mind.
Nice.
Oh, great times. So, are you? So let's go. I want more about the wheat that you're using. Like you said, there's many different types. Are you more of a red or a white? Are you a soft or a hard wheat? Are you a winter wheat? Like there's so many different types. Like you said, that it's kind of like when you get into your grains and you get in all these different types. So I'm intrigued as to what types are you more like to lean towards.
Yeah, for the most part, I'll do a mix of wheats because the red wheats are going to definitely be some of the nuttier flavors and give you some of the bolder flavors, whereas the white wheat's going to give you a little bit of the sweetness and softness. So if somebody was starting out with wheat and had never really used wheat before, I would lean them towards a hard white wheat or something like that, because that's going to be kind of a little bit easier to work with. Some of the red wheats, again, you can get into some of those where they get too nutty. They taste like a pecan or something like that even, so they can get a little bit too nutty. And so I really like I'm leaning more towards like a hard red wheat, even like a winter red wheat that's going to have not really strong bold flavors, but it's going to be pretty strong. But then I'm supplementing that with some soft white winter wheat or soft white wheat at least, or honey wheat malt or something like that. That's going to have a little bit softer sweetness because I love sweet. I love sweet mashes, and so I'm a big Buffalo Trace fan because of that. Because they're almost everything that you get off their still is going to have a kind of a sweeter flavor to it, and so that's what I try to go to and try to duplicate. Really, if I'm doing a corn mash or something like that, then it's gonna be mostly, if I do like a bourbon blend or something like that, I'll do a 51% corn, and then it's going to be, I like a really high wheat, like a 30% white wheat to add that sweetness in there, and then some malted barley or something like that to kind of counterbalance it, So, wheat just has so many different varieties, like the kamut that I used on the show. It has a really buttery flavor to it. And I really like that buttery flavor, and even a lot of wheat even has a little bit of citrus flavor to it. If you really taste it really really good, then So with that, the show recipe, I use mostly kamut and then some white wheat, some honey malt, some 6-row barley, and then in the thumper, that's where I put that blood orange juice and the honey in that thumper to kind of. The blood orange is going to pull some of the citrus out, and the honey is going to pull some of the sweetness out. And so, that combination there, just knowing, to me, I'm really into knowing how the flavors interact with each other. It really rubs me whenever you get some of the guys are like, oh yeah, you got to put corn and wheat and rye, and I'm going to make an 8-grain whatever. Well, you got too much in there. You need one main flavor and then build on that main flavor. And so, whenever you get some of these people that go on there and tell you, oh yeah, you got to add some of this and some of that and some all of these different grains in there, it just gets too much. When you don't know what you're going to get, and that's part of the reason, like with Alfredo Pena, whenever he did that gin with all of that, people that make gin, that's that I don't understand how that works. Like, how do you know you're going to mix 42 ingredients together and get something that's going to taste worth a damn to drink?
And then they do, and it's like, well, yeah, well, you got that gin, buddy,
And so I like doing some of that, but on a smaller scale, to where I know the different varieties and different flavors of wheat, and I've experimented enough and have tasted enough of the different wheat flavors that I know, okay, if I do this wheat with that, that corn, then like a Hickory King corn, it's going to be a really sweet corn. If you make a corn wheat wheat blend with that Hickory King corn, and then some soft white winter wheat. That's a good blend. That's good. It's going to be a really sweet tasting whiskey, and a really smooth, because the wheat makes it super smooth to drink too. So it takes all that bite out of it. So
it's about finding your balance. Like, like you see a lot of people are like, give me a mash bill, and I'm like, dude, just play with it until you find what you want. Just because like you're saying, like you like the wheat higher. You know, you like more wheat than most. Like somebody might not like that. They might not like all the dryness they're getting out of that.
Absolutely.
They might want to tone it down.
How he likes it, and that's what everybody should do, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of, you just got to play with it, man, until you find what you want, and then you're like, this I'll do it from now on because I like this.
Yeah, and then
go ahead.
Well, like you just exactly like you're saying, once you find kind of your main blend, then you can kind of tweak it and make that main blend exactly what you want. But just because I like it, don't mean it's going to be worth a damn to you. And that's part of the rub I have with some of these, some of these people like, oh, I make better corn whiskey than you. No, you make different corn whiskey to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not necessarily
the best is an opinion.
Yeah.
And we've all got ours. And
I kind of like the way that the oats does on the mouthfeel. So now that's something I'm going to start incorporating in. Now, I like a good sweet corn liquor, but I also like that mouthfeel of the oats. So to try to find that balance, that's something I'm going to be chasing now, to try to find that balance.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because that's one of the main reasons why I use so much wheat, is because I really like the way it feels in your mouth, and I mean, it makes it slide down so much easier. And so, the mouthfeel is a big thing. You can make something that tastes really good, but man, if it burns the crap out of your top of your mouth, then what's the purpose in it?
What you got there, Easy?
Banana brandy.
Banana brandy. Yeah, I've never done a whole lot of brandies. I did a pineapple brandy once, and it turned out okay. I did a mango brandy that turned out really good, but man, that's an expensive recipe there.
There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but it's just like, man.
And that's when it comes. That's why the small batch. That's why owning a smaller setup is beneficial.
Yeah,
because you can play with stuff, man. And when me and Sean left Big Easy and Matt out of a trip me and them took, it was we didn't want them around, just whatever.
I can understand.
We went down to we went down to Neely's. We went down to Neely's, and even Royce off in the corner.
Yeah,
I think it was like a 10-gallon still. He even said small experimental stills are, they're actually beneficial to some of these, even the bigger distilleries, because you can learn what you want to do on a larger scale in that little or smaller still, and not waste a lot of mash, not waste a lot of time, effort, energy, money. So, a lot to be said on the smaller scale, on small batch.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's highly beneficial, especially if you go to some of these big distilleries, you'll see exactly what you're saying. They've got a little small test still, and that's exactly what they use it for, and that's a perfect example, because you don't want to make a 600-gallon mash and have it taste like somebody's dirty underwear,
So saying that, so what was the very first thing that you ever made liquor in? What was that? A stainless steel copper rig?
Oh man,
Never,
it was.
I mean,
it was no. Well, put it this way.
I like the look of your face.
Vever didn't exist back then, Uncle Joey.
A Vever would have been an upgrade. I literally found a scrap metal stainless steel pot and welded that SOB together. And I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, whatsoever, and I had these little compression fittings that I tried to fit a line, an arm off the top of it going down into a condenser. And it was terrible, to the point where I was running that in my wife's kitchen on the stovetop, and let's just say it went kaboom, and mash went on the ceiling, on the counters, on the floor, on me, on everything, you know, and I mean, and it was everywhere. I mean, I never imagined that. And at that time, I didn't make the connection about, you know, running on the grain or off the grain or whatever. You know, I just literally took my 5-gallon bucket and just dumped it in, you know, so it was full of, it was full of everything in there. I don't know. And I think it was a combination of that and me just being dumb. I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned some lessons. I mean, that's the thing, you know, you learn and you keep.
Those brew bags were a good invention, right?
Yeah. And so I didn't do that anymore, and eventually kind of worked my way up. The first decent setup that I had was just a keg still. You know, hell, I ran on the dang keg still for 10 years. You know, I mean, you can't. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the keg still. And people all the time, oh, you can't. You got to use copper. You got well. I used the keg still for a long time. You know, and and eventually kind of worked my way up where I like to do stuff with my hands. I'm not necessarily very good at it, but I like to think I am. And so I tried to. I made the attempt to build my own still. And let's just say I spent enough time and money on that thing where I could have just went and bought one, you know, and saved myself a lot of money. And eventually I kaboomed that one too. And that unfortunate encounter did send me to the burn unit for 2 weeks. And I burned about 35% of my body on that experience, and I didn't think too much about it till the doctor said, well, you know, you could die from this. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that bit of information. And let's just say that was not a very pleasant stay, considering they have to scrape you daily. That was excruciating. But yeah, so after that, I kind of got banned from using paste stills and was told, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to do some tri-clamps if you're gonna do this. So
we know somebody else that doesn't like to use a paste still.
Yeah. So yeah, I stepped up to a tri-clamp after that, you know, and man, yeah, that was
ain't no looking back, is there?
Yeah, but I mean, it was a good experience. It was a good experience building that still because I learned a whole lot about.
How much of the experience was good, you know?
Yeah. The building experience
too good.
Good. But you know what? I learned some stuff that kaboom experience too, and pass that along as well. But that's something I don't advise to anybody. Don't mess with don't make bombs, I guess is the lesson.
Don't unintentionally make a bomb. Yeah.
Buy tri-clamp, you know.
Yeah.
The tri-clamps were invented for a reason.
Yep.
Buy tri-clamps.
Yep, and they work fantastic.
Easy. They do. They work great.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much to learn about it, and you know, I've talked to so many different people, and it's you learn something all the time, and I really enjoy that aspect of it, and I love talking to people about it too. You know, anytime I go to these events and set up, you know, you're in a conversation all the time with people that are either just getting started or whatever, and you know, just people that are like, oh, how do I keep from scorching it? Well, do it once, and you'll learn. You know, that's my advice to them, because you figure out pretty quick, okay, here's what you don't do if you don't want to scorch it, you know, because you know when you did it, and you remember that you did do it, you know.
You never forget that taste.
Yep, you never forget that smell or that taste.
It's like,
and it don't matter how many times you run it, you can't get that taste out.
Yeah, you scorch your mash, just dump it out and start a new mash. Like, that's what it is, man.
So listen, hearing you say you scorch it, so I'm guessing you learned on propane or fire or some sort. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, and that was a situation where it was like, you know, you step away for a second. Oh, I'm gonna, you know, this is heating up. I'm gonna, you know, make me a sandwich real quick, and I come back out, and because I've got a pressure relief valve or whatever on it, you know, to where I usually just let the heads or let the foreshots, evaporate out. And so I leave that valve open, and it, whenever I come back down, it was just spewing out, and I smelled it immediately, and I was like, yep, might as well shut it down, dump it. And I did. Actually, I didn't shut it down immediately. I ran it for about a gallon, and I was like, nope, it's gone. So.
Yeah.
But you learned, and that's part of it, and for me, the whole experience and going on the show and being able to do these kind of podcasts and just go to these different events. I mean, that's the whole reason why I do it. I mean, I really enjoy the whole aspect of the camaraderie of it and being able to talk to people and being able to share experiences with them. And, most of the time you share about the terrible things that happened. And then while you're passing around a good jar, you talk about the terrible things that happened. And, that's what connects everybody, because everybody screws up and everybody makes terrible whiskey, but you also make good stuff too,
And it's kind of neat listening to, when you get a group of fellers and the ladies around and everyone's got that story, you know what I mean? When everybody starts talking about that one story, you're like, yeah, this happened to me. And somebody like me just learning, I'm going to learn from your story. So
yeah,
some of previous mistakes may help somebody like me not make a mistake. So, it's all a learning process, whether I'm learning from you or you had to learn the hard way. We're all learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's about, and that's what got that going all the way back to the beginning. That's what got me into this, just being able to sit around with the group of guys that you may not know, that, you may not know very well, but you've got an experience with them, and you can share that experience with them around anything, about anything. And it just being able to do that around a jar of whiskey, you're not going to do that with passing around a glass of milk or something. Nobody's going to care about that. It's that jar of whiskey, that intrigue that brings people in and that makes people come over to the campfire when they see that jar passing around, or you're at, somewhere, wherever you're at, having a group of friends talk. If you pull out a jar of whiskey, I guarantee your group's going to increase by about 3 times, because people don't see that.
Well, and
every time
there might be guys there that might learn a few things or might gain some knowledge from what you're telling them on how you did something. So not only are you guys passing around a jar and telling stories, a lot of guys are learning. There's guys that are getting some knowledge out of it. So I've only been to a couple big events, and I've been around the Shiner group for a little while now, and I do like to just sit back and listen to them sometimes. When I get in some of those groups, because you'll learn a lot, man. You will definitely learn a lot.
Definitely. And even the whole Sugarlands experience that I went through, trying to scale up a recipe. I mean, whenever I was on the show, I mean, we're working with, I think it was 25 or 30 gallon stills. I don't remember, one or the other, but taking that 30-gallon mash and scaling that up to 800 gallons. I mean, it was nuts. And things didn't necessarily scale like I expected them to, or, and didn't necessarily get the flavors that I really expected to get. And I mean, it still made a good jar of liquor, but it didn't come out exactly as I planned, and that was a good learning experience. And even through talking to the distillers there, I was like, all right, give me some advice, like, for scaling this thing up or whatever. And they did. And I'm glad that they did, because like whenever I did the show, in the flavor run, I put my blood oranges and honey in the thumper. Well, Sugarlands doesn't have a thumper, and so I had to put I had to do a strip and run and then put the blood oranges and honey in the distillate whenever we ran it for the flavor run. And he was like, if you're going to do that, use about twice as much as what you would have in the thumper, and I wouldn't have thought that, and so whenever we ordered ingredients and all that, I mean, I was only planning on using like 50 pounds of honey. Well, I ended up using almost 100 pounds and wished I would have put more in. So it was definitely a learning experience, the whole scaling up process and trying to work on their equipment, which, man, that was a blast, because it was I mean, living right, because again, I live 30 minutes from Sugarlands, so I mean, I was there every single day and for every single second, and I did all of the work. And so whenever I walked in, I was kind of, on day one, I was expecting them to say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to put this in, and we're going to do this and this. No, it wasn't like that. I walked in, they said, all right, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, all right, well, okay. So it's like, you're in charge. You tell us what to grind, when to grind it, when to cook it, how long to cook it, what to put in, when to turn it on, when to turn it off. And I'm like, I can do that, and so.
But at the same time, you're on such a smaller scale doing it. You know what I mean? How does that like you said, it transfers over, man. So, there's something to be said for small batch distilling. I feel like transferred over on such a larger scale, you may lose some of that, man.
Well, this over the weekend, I had this exact discussion with Santa on Friday night. I was talking how I feel like the smaller stills put more flavor out in a run than a bigger still does, and I feel it's because you get in and out. Like your cook times are lower, or slower. You're in, you're out. Your flavors pull through a lot sooner because you get into your oils and your good flavors towards the middle-ish end of your run in your hearts a lot sooner. Whereas when you're running these big 100-gallon stills, like you have to wait, and there's so much waiting to get into those that you're real good, like popping flavors that smack you in the face. I feel get lost in some of these big stills, and I think that the shooters, the infusers on the thumpers, are really help keep that flavor in the big stills that I think can get lost if certain things aren't done during the run, and it's one of the reasons why you're seeing these big giant stills go to the vacuum distillation.
Oh yeah,
because you're producing alcohol like that with this much amount of heat. And you're getting into those good flavors sooner and faster. And so it makes you wonder the flavor profiles of the smaller stills to the bigger stills. And then, like you said, when you're scaling up, you're using this amount of honey on a 20-gallon still to do your run. Whereas when you throw it in that big giant still, you're using a truck full,
Yep.
And then, like, there's also something to be said for pumping flavor into your run with a thumper. Like putting that distillation in after the main distillation, as opposed to how you said you had to preload the pot with all your your strip liquor and try to pull it that way.
Yeah, it was definitely a different experience, and you're exactly right. It's like with the stripping run that we did, we just ran it hard and fast. We just wanted all the liquor we could get out of it, and I did not run the column still. I just ran straight from pot to condenser, so some of the other ones, they'll run it. They've got like a 5 or 6 column that comes off of their pot. And I chose not to do that because I didn't want to strip any flavor out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because even just doing that stripping run on that big of a still, like I said, we had that their still was 850 gallons, and I think I ended up with 700 gallons. My run was a little bit short, a little bit smaller. Like some of the other ones usually run close to 800 gallons, but I did mine at 700. I did mine purposely a little bit lower just so I could put more grain into it, And so whenever I put 700 gallons of mash in there, and they distill on the grain because they've got a jacketed system there, heat system there. So in a giant turn, whatever, agitator or whatever. So, they take their mash straight from the fermenter and dump every bit of it right into the still. So it was a little bit different experience because, like I say, at a small home setup, you're not necessarily distilling on the grain. You're pulling all that liquid off the top of the grains, and just distilling that. Well, they dump everything in. And so it was a different experience. And even doing the spirit run where I put the blood oranges in there. So you got to keep in mind, they run that still up there at Gatlinburg. They run that thing every day. And that they do clean it. They do clean it. But what we didn't take into account was whenever we dumped all of that citrus in, it acted as a dang cleaning agent for that still. And all through
flavors,
all through the hearts of that thing, or not hearts, all through the heads, it was just trash. I mean, just junk was pouring out. Like it looked like dirty dishwater. And I was like, oh man, to the point where I almost told them to shut it off, that wasn't gonna work for me. Because that citrus it acted as a cleaning agent and broke off everything out of that. And so we ran it like really hard at the beginning of to get through the 4 shots and heads to just try to bust loose and clear out everything out of it. But then whenever we got into the hearts, put it this way, we ran the hearts about the same trickle as you would a still at home. And I got there at about 9 o'clock in the morning. We started heating up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was still there at midnight that night trying to finish that flavor run. And so it was a long, slow trickle. It gave me. I'm not necessarily a fan of the run it slow and low theory. You know, I like to run it. You know, as long as the condenser's keeping up, I like to run it. You know, but man, we ran it. We gave definition to slow and low on that.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes, man.
Yeah.
So, you know,
that's crazy running that slow and low on a 800 gallons.
Yeah. I mean, I think we ended up with about 100 gallons of finished product after we, you know, because it started off at about 130 proof or so coming off of their still, and then it just stayed there, and then it eventually started tailing off, and we shut it off at about 85 proof, and after we tempered it down, we ended up with about 100 gallons of 95 proof. So
nice.
Hell yeah.
I won't complain, and it's good. It honestly it's as good as what I make at home. So I mean, it's good stuff. So
I'm hoping when they finally give you a date that it's something that some of us can attend, and we can come down there and check it out, man.
And that's the thing, you know, we're at this point where mine has already ran. We haven't bottled or labeled it yet, but they've got the labels in, and we'll bottle it and label it pretty soon. But right now we're waiting on the government. The government shut down, so you know, as you know, they like to release them 2 at a time, and so at this point in time, you know, we're waiting on the next person to come in and distill. Which I don't know who that's going to. I've got a good idea who it's going to be, but I don't know who exactly it's going to be, and I don't want to say a name until I can cash that check. But
well, I'm sure there's several waiting. So
yeah, and so it's one of those, like, until the government opens up, they can't do anything. They can't get the recipe approved. And man, you talk about a process. Like it was a process to get the recipe approved, to get the type of liquor it is approved to, because mine isn't necessarily a quote moonshine, even though, I mean, Sugarlands is going to call it a moonshine, which is fine, but it's not technically a moonshine. It's more of a spirit than it is a moonshine. Just with the ingredients that were in it. And so they can't, you know, and then getting the label approved. Holy cow, that was a ridiculous process, because I mean, they scrutinize everything from the picture on it to the font that the words are in, you know, and it's everything. What do you care that this font is whatever? And like, because with mine, it was like, because I called it Buffington's Moxie, because if you watch on the episode, you know, like I said, I didn't do anything to that final jar. I just turned it right back in without doing any post distilling, and so or post flavoring. And so Digger had said that takes a lot of Moxie, and so I called it Buffington's Moxie. Well, Moxie actually is a trademark of Coke, and so so the font on the word Moxie had to be just a specific font that I couldn't accent the word Moxie, because then Coke would come back and be like, oh, you have to pay us for it, you know. And so right now, thankfully, Coke agreed to let it slide this time, as long as we don't sell it outside of Gatlinburg. But hey, if it takes off and they take it on as a regular recipe, then we'll rename it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I think it's awesome that you're finally getting your run in, and congratulations to you
Thank
and
you.
everybody else that's doing their run right now. And I can't wait to hear when your release is going to be, man. If we could, I know if we can make it down, we'll try. I know it's hard. We're all from Ohio, so it's a little bit of a trip. So
I understand that.
Down, dude. Yeah, we'll definitely try to make it down.
Some of us will be down this weekend for the releases going on at Drop Zone on Saturday morning. They have a release going, and then Saturday evening at Sugarlands is a release. So we'll some of us will be down for that. Some of us won't show up. Some of us will. So that's just how it goes.
I'm hoping our buddy Brian Battle, I know he's due here soon. Maybe
he is
lucky, and maybe you and Brian will be together.
Oh man, that would be ideal.
That'd be a good
I've got so much respect for that dude. He is top notch. He's a top notch guy. I can't say enough good things about him. He's a good guy. I mean, he's got it together, and he's doing some great things with his grappa, and I really can't say good enough things about him. And that would be, I wouldn't complain a bit if it was me and him releasing together. So
hey, shout out to Brian Battle, man. We love you, brother. We can't wait.
Cheers.
We definitely can't wait.
Definitely, and I just. Yeah, and I just wanted to appreciate, say that I appreciate what you guys do here on this show and what y'all have done to get the guests together and the conversations you have. I mean, this is what it's about right here. Just, a group of guys and gals getting together and shooting the shit or talking about MASH or whatever.
Talk a little liquor. One of the things that we've done from the beginning is ever since we started bringing guests on, we just want to hear you speak. There's not us talking over the guests. It's not about me or or him, or it's just about you. We want to let you give you the hour to speak your piece on how you fell in love. Tell your little stories about how you burnt your ass a couple times. What I'm saying?
Yep.
Like that's what it's all about. And luckily we're in the age to where we have the internet, and it's not like before to where you didn't have anybody to ask questions for. There wasn't there wasn't there wasn't videos to reference, or wasn't content creators, and now there's this. There's podcasts like this where people can sit down and just shoot the shit and talk. There's learning podcasts, where there's just spellers just sitting there just answering questions, and we'll look up and bring you whatever question you want to know. I know old Wayne Ozark, he's got a new one coming out that just wants to dive into specific topics. He and I was talking about doing a show and calling it I'm Not Content, because how can you ever be content if you still want to achieve and succeed forward? So that'll be something where you just sit down with one topic, several people, and you just divulge into this single topic for over an hour.
Man, so, that's a good idea. I like that.
And it's it's the evolution of this, and it's great that there's different facets to this. It's not just all the same thing, it's everybody putting their own twist on it. Just like when we're home distillers and we're making moonshine or brandy or apple pie at home, it's all of our own twist and our own thing on what we want to do, and that's how it should be. And it makes it to where it doesn't water it down, and it's a lot more entertaining for everybody, and there's a lot more knowledge being spread around.
Yeah,
right.
So absolutely. I definitely appreciate what y'all do.
I mean, we appreciate you, and putting yourself out there and getting on the show, and and slugging through the process and just dealing with them to be able to get on, because it's a hell of a process. And
it is. It's worth it, though. I mean, I can tell you that as many people as I've talked to about it, because it was after I got done airing and went on the show and whatever, I had some conversations with the producers after the show about, maybe even possibly going on another time for some other stuff and whatever. And I just had posed the question. I was like, so how many people actually apply to the show? And they had told me for our season that there was like 100,000 people that applied, so just being able to be one of the people that they chose. I mean, it's a great experience, and I can't say enough that good things about it between them and Sugarlands, and trying to get everything made and produced and whatever. Yeah, it's taken forever. man, it's been worth it. And so I definitely can't say good enough things about it. If you're interested in it and you think that you've got what it takes, then definitely go out there and apply and be on it. Try to be on it.
And be prepared for the long haul.
Yep.
And sometimes you might it'll come along that you'll go through all this and they'll tell you a time and a date to have clear, and then you'll never hear from them again.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you guys couldn't even call me and tell me to eat shit.
Nope.
After you strung me along for 2 years, like that's insanity to me.
No. And I could tell you that, I mean, the friendships that I made, with Judd and Marcus and all the people that's been on the show and that I've met through it have been fantastic. And I know, Judd's going through some hard stuff right now, so definitely keep him in your prayers. And I mean, he'll pull through. He's a tough guy. He's got it. But the friendships I made with those guys have been fantastic and long lasting, and I definitely appreciate it.
And are you working in a distillery now or anything like that?
Yeah, so I do a little bit of contracting, and a little bit, I guess, advising or whatever. I've been in a couple different distilleries, and I won't necessarily name names on them, but I've been in a couple different ones in a couple different roles, and I've got one coming up where I'm going to be helping out doing some. Actually, it's kind of funny. It's an oat recipe, which, yeah.
Hey.
And so, I've got one coming up that we're going to be doing an oat recipe and releasing that. And so I've just been kind of the behind the scenes kind of advisor and kind of helping out on some of the recipes and some of the things like that. But yeah, I've done quite a bit. I'm not necessarily tied to a single one. There's enough distilleries around here in Tennessee that, man, if you can't find work to do in one of them somewhere, then something's wrong, because there's enough of them down here, and as long as you're decent at what you do, then they'll gladly accept the help. So
yeah.
So I've got questions about this oat recipe.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's going to be a good recipe, and so with a pretty popular distillery. So
hell yeah.
Nice.
Well, you will have to keep us in the loop and let us know. Because now you've got listen, I'm already intrigued by the oats. Now you just sparked it even more. He said,
I've got an oat recipe. I've got some ideas, definitely with what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, it's not a cheap recipe, but it's a good one.
Hell yeah.
Hey, it's worth it when sometimes it's worth it, man. Like,
yeah.
You gotta put quality in and quality out. Sometimes quality is expensive.
Exactly right. Sometimes it costs you just a little bit.
Yeah, person buying that jar, if they know, man, they'll gladly pay it. You see it every day. I'd much rather pay double for a quality jar than pay a third for a shit jar.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I don't drink gin. I took enough of that shit growing up. Ain't my dick no more. Like, but all right. Well, anyways, I had everybody on here long enough. Brandon, we appreciate you giving us your Monday night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate everybody for showing up. If you did, if you didn't, we know who you are.
Yep.
So if you're going to be in Gatlinburg this weekend, you'll see some of us down there for the releases. We hope to see you there. If not, when that oat jar comes out, Brandon, let us know. We got to figure out how to get a couple of them.
Yes, sir.
I love you some oats. I like the smoothness of them. So
Yep.
Anyways, thanks again for coming on and imparting your knowledge on us. And
thank you.
Stay away from the pastilles till you got a little bit more experience.
I learned that lesson. I got the scars to prove it.
Everybody have a great night. Next week, who we got, Uncle Joey?
Right now, we're looking for a guest, man. We've got 2 open spots. If anybody's interested, if you'd like to come on and be a guest on Still Talking, reach out to Uncle Joey, Sean, or Big Easy.
Reach out to Uncle Joey because reach out to Uncle Joey.
Uncle Joey, reach out to Sean Rigsby, see if we get him.
Yeah, reach out to Sean. We want to get
Sean next week. Get Sean on next week.
Sean to be a guest.
Sean Rigsby's our
He'd still be a no-show.
He's a no-show, so we just need a backup guest.
Brandon, we appreciate your time, brother. Yes,
thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
We love y'all. See you next week.
Do.
See ya.
Everybody shine on. Oh, man.